In the last year, we've seen some incredible breakthroughs in using our brains to control machines. Researchers all over the world are coming up with ways to use brain interfaces to control computer cursors, wheelchairs, even robotic limbs. Earlier this year, a quadriplegic woman used a robot arm controlled by an implant in the motor cortex of her brain to drink coffee on her own for the first time in 15 years. We're setting the stage for a world where someone like Stephen Hawking can type at the speed of thought, where you could access information as fast as you can come up with questions and enhance your body with machines that you control the same way you control your own legs, your own hand. Let me tell you about how I got into this field. One day I was at a friend's house, and my friend showed me a web page for an EEG headset that you can get for $100. If you don't know what EEG is, it's a device that can give you some insight into what's going on in your brain by measuring electrical signals along your scalp. My friend is an electronic music producer, and he wondered if I could come up with a way of incorporating this EEG device into his music. So I looked into it for a few minutes and said, yeah, probably. So we ordered one of these headsets, and I got to work on software to take data from the headset and translate it into output that can control music. It turned out I was not the first person to have worked on this, which is usually true these days. So all I had to do was hack an existing program, adding the ability for it to output MIDI, which is a standard developed in the 1980s for controlling electronic musical instruments. Since it outputs MIDI, the program can be connected to the music production software of your choice, where it can be used to control part of a virtual synthesizer or an audio effect. And since then, I've written several applications, all using this little EEG headset you can get for $100. And I'm just going to show you one of them right now. This is reading my level of attention off of the headset. And as my attention goes up, this tree has... As my attention level goes up, you'll see these branches coming out of this tree. Well, it doesn't want to work today. But believe me when I tell you that we can use our brain waves to control computer applications and potentially lots of other things. And when I say we, I mean quite literally you and me can do this right now. It costs about $100 for the headset and a little bit of programming time. And since this program I wrote is free software, you can use it as a starting place to connect one of these devices to just about anything computerized or electronic, whether it's a musical instrument or a vehicle or just about anything else you come up with. I think that's really cool. Brain interfaces include everything from this little headset to much more expensive and sophisticated devices with lots of sensors, even implanted devices that can read electrical activity directly off of your brain. They used to be exclusively used as medical and scientific research equipment, but with costs coming down and the devices getting smaller and smaller, a whole new range of applications is possible. Probably the most important of these is in the field of assistive technologies. Our current generation of technologies that allow people with severe disabilities to communicate all require some sort of motor input, whether it's small movements of a finger, the tongue, or the eyes. This is good enough for a lot of people, but it can be slow and difficult, and in some cases impossible, such as in the case of people with locked-in syndrome. Aside from controlling things, a brain activity recorder that you wear around all day could give you deep insight into your own mind. It could be an invaluable tool for mental training to help make you more attentive, focused, or relaxed, for example. It could be used to help diagnose and treat a number of health issues. Also consider what you could do by correlating data from scanning your brain with something like a wearable camera or an eye tracking device. You're going about your day and you look at a certain object or another person, it elicits a reaction in you. And you now have a record of what you were looking at and when, along with some data about what your brain was doing at the time. In your own hands, this could be used to discover feelings you weren't even aware of, to help you understand what makes you happy or miserable in life, In the hands of someone with your best interest at heart, it could be used to help you in all sorts of ways. But what about the hands of an advertising agency trying to sell you stuff you don't need? What about the hands of an Orwellian government trying to monitor thought crime? So there's this other side of it that we have to consider, and it's kind of scary. But this is not a new story. Every time in human history that a new tool comes along, it brings with it a certain amount of potential for good and a certain amount of potential for harm. How it ultimately works out is up to us. One option we have, and I do encounter this regularly, is to say, this technology is just too risky, too potentially destructive, we can't allow it to exist. Well, you're welcome to try and fight that fight, but I can pretty much guarantee that you'll lose. And while you're distracted, the technology will go ahead and become ubiquitous anyway, without any input from you. Another option is that we can let profit motives guide the integration of this technology into our lives, which is inevitably going to happen. But I think we have an obligation to at least help shape that process. The difference between brain-computer interfaces being a positive, life-changing technology and being used to manipulate you comes down to who has access to the data. So what can we do? If you're a person who makes things, keep making awesome things. We need that. Keep pushing the boundaries. But make things that promote and respect personal ownership of personal data. If you're a person who uses things, while you're out using these amazing life-changing devices, be aware of what data is being created about you and who owns it. We need you to promote the cultural values of data ownership, privacy, and autonomy. Embrace the technology, respect it, let it help make you a better human. Just don't let it master you. Thank you.